Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Laura, welcome to Consulting Leaders.
Hello, thank you for having me here today.
It is a great pleasure. Let's just jump straight to it. What got you to launch Venture Coaching International?
Well, the bottom line is I have always been interested in helping people. So I started off helping people in the nonprofit sector. My original background is actually in counseling. I have an MSW, Master's of Social Work, and I spent about 12 years in the nonprofit sector working the front lines as well as studying and practicing in leadership. And then I started to evaluate my career and what I was up to. My husband had his first business at the time. And as part of that investigation and evaluation, I discovered business coaching and leadership development. And this was over 20 years ago. So back then, I couldn't even find a book on leadership coaching. Now, of course, they're everywhere. But it really came about because my husband was experiencing challenges, as everybody does, in building a business. And I could see that other business owners were experiencing challenges personally, professionally, in their leadership. And I thought, you know what? I can bring my counseling expertise as well as the coaching expertise that I had developed to this audience to really help them build a better life and business. Because that's really why business owners have gone into business in the first place, is they are experts in their field. And sometimes they've actually fallen into business ownership and leadership almost by accident. It's because they decided they didn't want to work for somebody else. Now they've decided to work for themselves. And they're trying to create, success and fulfillment ultimately in their life and business. And that can be challenging. So that's why I decided I really wanted to help this audience. And here I am 25 years later, still going strong.
So tell us a bit more about how you help them face and solve those challenges then. What is it? What is the problem that you help those leaders solve and how?
Well, I find that a lot of leaders, when I start working with them, they're in a state of overwhelm, and I'm going to call it reaction and distraction, because they've got so many things going on. Sometimes they're solopreneurs, or they're leading a small team. They're trying to figure out sales. They're trying to figure out marketing, their systems and processes, how to lead others, how to delegate. They're trying to understand finance and how to read a financial statement. There's just so many things going on that's pulling them in all kinds of different directions. And then you've got all of these other, you've got media, social media, and all these other things coming at them and say, oh, do it this way, do it that way, do it the other. And ultimately, and often they don't have an actual plan for themselves, and which keeps them in this reaction mode to everything. And then all the various pieces of data flying at them are keeping them in distraction as well. So they're really in reaction and distraction, trying to move forward, putting out fires all day long. And it's kind of messy, to be honest.
It is. I am a 24/7 firefighter, and twice on Sunday. I would say this is my job now. So
Yeah.
I do get it. Who would you say you service not best, but who is your target client? Like, who is the type of people that you get the best results for?
Yeah, so my target audience really is a subject matter expert who is now leading a small team. So they're an architect, they're an engineer, doctor, lawyer, dentist, and they, like I said, they're a subject matter expert. They know their stuff, which is why they decided that they didn't want to work for somebody else. They wanted to run their own company. And now they've gotten into that. They've achieved a certain level of success, but they're struggling. They may have plateaued a bit in their sales and their revenue, or they're growing their team and not getting the performance out of their team that they'd like, or they're not getting performance out of themselves like they want, because they're in that firefighting mode all the time. And they'd like to grow, but they don't know how to get beyond their current state of being. And they're feeling, quite stuck. They're already feeling overwhelmed. And so they don't even know how they would grow, because they can't see a path for taking on more, which is how they're viewing it. So they're kind of feeling like, oh my gosh, this isn't what I wanted when I created my business. I was really looking for, I'm going to call it work-life balance, if you will. And they're not getting what they set out to create in the first place. So that's my ideal audience.
So, I mean, I guess in a lot of those cases, there will be not only the one that you help, but also the decision maker, right? Do you have, for the bigger ones, for the people you help within bigger organizations, who are the decision makers? Because I'm asking you this because you have a messaging, you have a solution that you support people with, but sometimes the person that you end up helping is not the one that you need to sell it to. So is the decision maker always the same for you? Or what matters to you is to get in front of those business owners, those doctors, those architects who are in need of like business coaching and leadership coaching?
And great question, because really my focus is on leadership. So whether that leader is the small business owner, or whether that leader is a senior leader in an organization, the CEO, for example, or that C-suite of executives, those are the people that I also work with, because it's leadership focused. Usually it's the individual who's realizing that they're struggling in some way, or they're just not feeling fulfilled, or this isn't working out the way they thought it was going to. And so they may be reaching out directly, for that support. They may have heard of a colleague or a friend of theirs is like, oh, well, I got myself a business coach. And they're like, business coach, what's that? And so then they start to realize, oh, these people exist and can be helpful. And then occasionally an HR director will reach out to me and say, we've got a manager or a senior leader in our organization who we really want to strengthen and help them get next level. Because it's not always about solving problems either. It's, someone could be doing quite well and they just want to go next level with their abilities and their leadership. So it doesn't have to necessarily be about fixing what's wrong. It can also be about taking people next level in their life and leadership. So that's really the range of people who will reach out to me.
Because leadership and business coaching is more popular nowadays. I had another guest say this interesting thing that I'd like to get your thoughts on. He was like, 15 years ago, someone was coming to you and they were like, oh, you have a business coach? I mean, you have a coach? What's wrong with you? And it's like, now, today, people come to you and it's like, oh, you don't have a coach? What's wrong with you? So since there is a much bigger supply, for sure, but there is also a much bigger demand. So I guess that's a nice segue into my next question, which is how do you market? How do you brand yourself? Is there much, let's say, problem awareness type of strategy to lead, or people are aware of the problem and now it's just about matching it with the right solution? How do you go about all this with the fact that 25 years ago maybe it was harder to communicate the value of what you were doing? Now it's not that much more about the value, but more why you specifically. I mean, how do you navigate all this aspect of sending the right message to the right people among that sea of noise, let's say?
Yeah, sea of noise, absolutely. As you acknowledged, the coaching profession has exploded over the past couple of decades, and it is kind of a buyer beware scenario because you've got coaches out there serving people. Some of them have no coach training whatsoever. May have some experience behind them. Others have a weekend boot camp behind them, and other people have years of expertise and professional training in this area. So, and there are coaches who are very niche. You can get a marketing coach, you can get a sales coach, you could get a spiritual coach. There are definitely coaches with very specific specialties. I would say where I niche myself is I'm more of a whole person coach because business and leadership is very intertwined. A business is a reflection of the owner, a reflection of the leader and who they are at their core. And I find that lots of owners, managers, leaders who may be looking for coaching support, they're connected with their symptoms, but they're not always understanding that their symptoms, like burnout, for example, or being distracted, or not being able to delegate effectively or get good performance out of their team. Those are symptoms of underlying problems. And the underlying problem sits with the leader. If
It
they're not
does.
right? If they're not getting the performance that they want out of themselves or the people around them, it's
Yeah.
often because of their own mindset. It's how they're communicating or not communicating. It's because
Mhm.
they're not clear with their vision and their strategy. They don't have a plan. They're inconsistent with their execution. They're not delegating in a way that people can understand what the expectations are and the timelines. So there's lots of symptoms that people often are connected to, but those are driven from underlying issues. And so that's where I play with my leaders, is I come in, get a sense from them about what's going on, and then help the breakthroughs occur when they start to see, oh, this sits with me first. And then, so they need to change their mindset. They need to learn some new habits, some new strategies, some new communication skills so that they can be more effective personally and then bring that effectiveness into their leadership of others, if that makes sense.
It does 100%. So I love how clear you are on the messaging. What has worked for you, Laura, to communicate that message? And here I'm really talking about the marketing channels that were efficient for you, right? I'm suspecting that you've done many things and tried many things over those 25 years. So what has worked for you and what is working now to get that message in front of the right people and to get them to enter into your ecosystem?
Well, what's worked for me, like you mentioned the word clarity, and that is the first important piece. I have to be clear about who I am, who I serve, what problems I solve. I have to be clear about that first so that I can then bring those messages forward in my various channels of communication. Communication like these types of podcasts where I get to have great conversations with people like you and share information about what's going on out there in the world and share strategies, for example. And that messaging is then brought into my social media channels. It's brought into my website. It's brought into the types of content that I deliver for free on my website, in other podcasts that I've been on, and in ebooks that people can download. So it really starts with that clarity first. And that clarity started all the way back 25 years ago when I launched with cold calling. I actually wrote a script and bought a list and cold called in the very beginning which fortunately I don't have to do anymore because it's not my favorite thing to do. So now I'm at a place, years later, where fortunately referrals come my way. And then, podcasts were not a thing 25 years ago. So being able to have conversations like these where people can get a little taste of, my personality, who I am, what I'm all about, then see that is reinforced in my messaging, whether they connect with me on LinkedIn and get resources there, or whether they show up on my website and get resources there. Everything is aligned with who I am, how I can help the people I serve, so that people, when they do show up, can start to see pretty quickly if they might be a fit for working with me or not. And then I'm always open to having a conversation, because then we get to chat, figure out what's going on for them, and take it that next step of seeing if a relationship's actually going to work or not.
That's something I want to double down on here. So first of all, kudos to you for doing cold calling. It's so funny. I have guests saying, "Oh, I get all my business from cold calling. I love it," and I have others saying, "I hate cold calling. I tried it. It worked, but I hate it." So I was like,
Yeah.
"It didn't work." So I mean, that's a very, I understand it's like very out of your comfort zone type of thing when you start cold calling. But some people just love it. On the specific point around lots of content for free, which you've put a lot of emphasis on, which I respect. Double down on this because I had a guest say, we live in a trust recession world. I think this is so perfectly put. Like anybody can claim anything on the internet nowadays. There is a lot of noise. And before working with you, especially when we talk high ticket, which is what this podcast is about, people are going to do their research. And they got into your ecosystem because you cold call them or anything happened, but they start looking you up and they don't find anything. You're probably dead in the water. You might still get one or two to convert out of thousands, but this is very hard. Putting content out there that will position you as an authority, being willing to give clarity, value, and potentially even the solution out there for free, being comfortable with the fact that some people will actually use this, get results, and therefore not reach out to you, but now you've built that authority, and the people who value their time more than they value their money will invest in your services because they want to go faster and get someone to help them go there faster. Those are the people that you do this for. So going on podcasts.
Absolutely. And I'd like to add to that bit in that as a coach, and I think this applies to other people too, my clients want to know that I walk my talk.
Yeah.
So again, that adds to the credibility piece. And the other piece that's super important too in the content that we're putting out there is, and especially on our websites, whether it's my website or it's the website of one of your listeners today, I find so many websites. My husband's in marketing, so he doubled down on this with me. So many websites are all about us, what I do, who I am, and how I fix things, and they don't provide value for the audience. They don't provide value for the person who's looking up or showing up and browsing the website. It's just all about me. And we have to get away from that. And if someone's going to find our website, there can be information, obviously, about who we are and what we're all about, but we have to provide some value to people so that they know that if they're going to reach out and connect, they're going to get value from the relationship. So whether that value is in podcasts or in an ebook download, whatever that looks like, we're here to provide value to people. And so that's what we have to deliver.
How do you take this? So those initial conversations, this initial awareness, right? So it's okay. People have entered your ecosystem. Now they know who you are, what you do, how you can help them with their specific problems. How do you move this from initial awareness to SOW, letter of engagement, we rock and roll? What does the sales motion look like for you?
So the sales conversation for me, it happens during, it can happen in two ways. Sometimes we have a conversation, someone will reach out and say, hey, can I have a conversation with you? And so I will do that. And what I found very successful for me years ago, because I used to be really freaked out by sales, and it's like, oh my gosh, sales is, I had all this negative mindset about sales. It's pushy and it's slimy, and I have to convince people. And so those conversations did not go well. And then I discovered an approach called spin selling. And SPIN is an acronym. Spin Selling is actually a book by Neil Rackham. And SPIN is an acronym for understanding someone's situation, their pain or their problem, what the implications are if they don't solve their problem, and then what do they need. And so often my conversation with a prospect just is walking through that SPIN model. I ask questions. I show up wanting to learn and understand them from their perspective. What is their situation? Where are they at in the business cycle? What are they dealing with? What are their frustrations? Which leads into the pain piece. What pains are they experiencing? And the real crux of the conversation is when I start asking them the question, what's going to happen if these problems don't get solved? So that the prospect is leading themselves through the conversation of realizing, oh, if I don't fix this, this is going to happen and it's not going to be good. And then I can ask, so what do you think needs to happen? And really, they sell themselves, at that point, because I've walked them through the language, the thinking of what's going on for them. And that's when they talk themselves into needing a coach. So I have found that approach really successful. And then if someone is still sort of on the fence or not sure if coaching is going to be a great fit, then I'm a try before you buy kind of person. So I'm always happy to offer them a bit of coaching time for free, get a sense of my style, how the conversation is going to go, help them actually experience a breakthrough in their thinking on something or their perspective, because when they have that breakthrough, then they realize, okay, this is for me and let's move forward.
Intended. So this is how you create awareness. This is how you get clients. Talk to me about the next step, meaning when I was a consultant at PwC, and I know it's very close to B2B coaching, the partner who taught me everything was like, Guillaume, there are two types of consultants. He was like, there are the hunters and the farmers. I was like, I'm a hunter. I love the smell of fresh blood in the morning. I love to go after new business. That's my jam. But the partners bringing in the most money, the partners growing the fastest, are the farmers, the ones who are able to take that initial engagement and transform it into a multi-layered, multi-year project involving other teams from PwC. Those are the ones who do the best. My question to you, Laura, is once you get that initial engagement, once you get that initial coaching project, how do you keep on delivering value over time to make sure that the client is getting more value, right? But that you can also retain that client and work with them for many, many years instead of just a 3 to 6 month engagement. How does that look like for you?
Yeah, well, I hadn't thought of it as hunter or farmer, but I guess I'm a farmer, because most of my clients work with me for, at least 2 years and sometimes onward towards 5 years. And it begins with how I set up the relationship with them, because we may work in quarterly segments, if you will, but I equate those segments as sort of steps going up a staircase, in that their ultimate vision and what they want to create for their life and business sits at the top of the staircase. And we can't work on everything all at once. So what we do on a quarterly basis is we work on one step at a time. So we take that vision that they have and we reverse engineer their business. Where do they want to be ultimately? What's that definition of success and fulfillment look like for them? Where do they want to be in 10 years? Then we back that up. What does that look like in 5 years? And then we back that up. What does that look like in 1 year? So that whatever we're working on this year is aligned with the longer term vision. And then we take the year and we break it down into quarterly segments. What do we need to work on, personally and in the business this quarter that's going to move the individual forward? And then we take those goals for the quarter and we break them down into weekly action steps. And all of that gets tracked so that they don't have to think about an entire quarter, or definitely not a whole year all at once. So we break it down into workable pieces. We break action steps down into maybe 1 or 2 each week so that we have consistency of action moving forward. And I find that with that discipline and consistency that then is measured and tracked, my clients end up at least meeting, if not exceeding, their goals. And what we thought maybe was a 10-year plan sometimes gets actually shortened because with the alignment we've created, they're moving forward faster.
One of the things that you mentioned here is having, milestones all along the way, and documented milestones, and making sure you document everything. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that a lot of B2B coaches and consultants struggle with is to get testimonials, case studies out of their clients. It's great for them to, they would usually, if the B2B coach or consultant does a great job, they will refer them to other people that they may be able to help. This is how most B2B coaches and consultants grow their business when they start. But then getting that public validation is usually a whole different ballgame. How do you do that? Is that something you include in your systems, like getting that kind of testimonial and case studies out of the clients as you go, so that you can say to other people who might be willing to work with you, like, hey, look, this is the type of results that we got from the mouth of our clients, of someone who looks like you, think like you, smell like you, does the same thing as you. How do you go about that?
Yeah, great question. And that's where some consistency needs to show up in my practice. So, right, I have to walk my talk. So, often when, as a coaching session is wrapping up, a client may share, oh my gosh, this was amazing today. Here's the breakthrough I had. Or they may be sharing. I actually start all of my coaching sessions with my clients sharing with me what their wins have been for the week. And so I collect those thoughts as we go along. And if there's been a particular breakthrough, I ask my clients permission. Hey, can I capture that? Can we share that good news? Would you? And I find that clients are more than happy to say, oh yeah, absolutely. I'll write that down for you, or let's just write it down now, kind of thing. And I've had clients be more than happy to do a Zoom interview with me, or be on camera when I ask, to say, yes, this is great. And these are the results that I have generated by working with Laura. So I used to be scared to ask in years past, because I didn't want to, again, my own headspace around that. But I've learned to ask, and I have found that people are more than willing and are actually excited to jump in and provide a testimonial, whether that's written or whether that's on video, whatever way it shows up. I find that they're happy to do so. And really, all we have to do is ask.
So there are a few things I want to double down on again, because this is just pure gold. Best way to get video testimonials from your clients is to have those monthly, bi-weekly, weekly checkup where you're going to discuss about milestones, roadmap, achievements, and like next steps anyways. Get their feedback live, document it, and at the end of like each big milestone or engagement, ask them for a testimonial or referral. If you can get them into an interview, that's gold, because you're going to be able to have that interactive case study and testimonial, and you're going to be able to ask them the precise question that you want. If that's not something that comes through, leverage the videos that you've recorded. Like, hey, look, would you be willing to give us a testimonial? Yes, sure, would love to. And then it just falls through the net and they never do it. It's all right. I actually have the recorded sections where like you congratulate us on this, you explain how happy you are about this. I did a little, editing kung fu, here's the final product. Is that good to go for you? Frictionless, actual, on the field testimonial from the clients. And of course, if they want to add something at the end, they can. But like, that's an excellent way to get frictionless testimonials that you can showcase to the public and build proof and authority in your niche at the same time.
Absolutely. Anything that we can do to make it easier for our clients. I find that, yes, they want to help, and they're often busy. So if there's something that we can do just to make it a little bit easier for them, then I find that they're all over that.
Amen to that.
Mm-hmm.
So let me throw a curveball at you, Laura, because you're clearly nailing it. So let me ask you, where would you say you feel stuck right now? What's challenging you the most in your business?
Well, I'm not necessarily feeling stuck, but I am in process with something. So I'm actually evolving my business right now in my practice for the work that I do with people. Because I had a very interesting transformation happen over the past year, which is I discovered, and I'm just going to throw this out there. I hope you're open to it, but I discovered the power of psychedelic medicines and how psychedelics can help people take their performance and a bit through the roof. And so I'm actually integrating those tools into my practice right now so that my leaders can reconnect with who they are, reconnect with their authenticity, create fast, powerful breakthroughs for themselves, discover new possibilities for their life and business, and strengthen their sense of empowerment for living into those possibilities. So I'm just in the process right now of pulling those ideas together so that I can have the clarity first and the alignment, and then be able to communicate effectively about this type of possibility where I can lead people through their authenticity, then getting them aligned in their life and business, and then integrating the insights and new habits and new skills that they need to really take their life and business to the next level. So that's what I'm up to these days.
And so I guess that answers a bit the next question, which is, what are you looking forward to? Like, what's the next big thing that you're going to implement in your business in the next 3 to 6 months that you feel will drive a big difference? Is that it? Is there another component to it that you'd like to highlight?
It's really the journey work that I am integrating. I've been integrating it this year. I became a certified guide in this area, so it's really that integration, starting to communicate about it, help people understand, because there's still some stigma around these tools and fear about these tools. So really helping people understand them and my personal experience with them and what they might be able to gain for themselves. So that's going to be my focus for the next 3 to 6 months, is all of my own integration.
Well, what's on, ladies and gentlemen? Laura, if people want to find out more about you and what you do, where should they go?
Well, I guess the best place to find me is at my website, which is venturecoaching.ca, because I'm located in Canada. And I am venture coaching on LinkedIn, or just my name, Laura Watson, on LinkedIn as well. So those are really the best places to find me. And like I said, there's a lot of freebies on my website as far as ebooks and other podcast episodes that I've done. So if people want to go there, I think they'll find numerous resources that they will relate to and hopefully be able to use.
We'll put all the links in the description. And what I can say for sure is that you gained one connection on LinkedIn out of this interview, at least me. I just added you.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me here today.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.